Facebook. What's up? Hello, how are you? Happy Sunday. Welcome to yet another broadcast. Um, Coming to you live on another Sunday. My name is Serene, for those of you who are just tuning in for the first time, and this is my channel, My Sweet Pea and Me. So, I am going to jump into this broadcast today, and it's kind of a venting broadcast. Like I gotta vent, y'all. I'm frustrated, and I'm hoping, like, okay, besides venting, I definitely want to make sure that you get something out of it, as far as that it helps someone, because venting by itself, sometimes it just helps the person who's venting, but I have to be responsible also for those who are watching, to make sure that there's some kind of knowledge or information imparted, right? I wouldn't be that's the whole purpose of the channel. But I have to vent. I have to vent. So right now, what's happening is I'm in a position of I'm the executive. My title? It changes, but manager of early childhood education programs at a pre-K program. And right now, where I am with all of my families is they are coming into my office to do to ask questions about the kindergarten application process. And so they're coming in and they're constantly asking me, what schools do I know of in the area, within the district that we live in, and if I can refer them to anything. And oftentimes I can't. Like I basically know where many of the families go in that area, and so I just let them know that much. And then sometimes I have other schools from outside, like outside of the neighborhood, want to come in, and they come in and do like speak with the families and advertise basically for their schools and talk to them about what their school has to offer. But in addition to helping my families out right now, I am in the same exact boat. So my daughter, who is 4 years old, she will be going to kindergarten in September 2018. And so I am in the process, just like with all of those parents, on wondering the same questions, like what's out there, what's good, where can I send her? And I am frustrated, y'all. It's frustrating. And it's frustrating for a few reasons. One, my time. Like, I mean, I'm in the role pretty much as a principal for a school. So when you are in that role, you are working during the times that schools are open, to be able to tour them and to speak to people and make those phone calls and stuff. So that in itself is frustrating for me, that I have to balance that. But trust me, that's my daughter, and so I've taken off days. I'm touring. I'm like, listen, I can't be looking out for all of my families and not looking out for myself and my daughter. Like, at the end of the day, that's a job, and but my role as mom is definitely, it supersedes all of the obligations for my job. But I've toured a couple of schools, and I'm going to share with you all what I go in to look for and why I'm frustrated, right? So I'm picky, right? I'm picky, or particular, or however you want to, choosy or whatever. And why shouldn't I be? Like, this is my baby girl. So here are my criteria that I have when I'm going to these schools, right? And so I kind of listed them out, and I just want to talk a little bit about each of those sections, right? These different criteria that I'm going into these schools with this particular lens, or this lens with these criteria, right? So the first thing is, how does the school take into consideration the fact that she was just in pre-K? Like, what is the school doing to make that bridge, be a bridge, like, right? That is not just September she walks in and, hey, you're in kindergarten, so here's this kindergarten life. Like, what factors or what aspects of the school takes into consideration that she just left pre-K? So, in particular, right, or to be specific, in pre-K, there's a rest period, right? There's a napping period. Now, my daughter doesn't necessarily nap, But there are days that she does, and she conks out, and she's exhausted, right? So because she just turned 4, and she gets tired from a very long day, and so around like 12:30, 1 o'clock, there's a rest period for her to just chill out, right? I have it at my program as well, of course, right? So it's a requirement actually, where the children have like a 45-minute rest period. So when I am looking at kindergartens, I'm not looking for her to nap. Like that would be crazy. Like I know that there is a weaning, like that she does eventually have to stop the napping, and just developmentally, she's not going to, her body's not going to require a nap to be able to get on with her day. But what I'm looking for is where is there time in the day for a little bit of downtime for her to just mellow out a little bit, because she just left a place where they had lights off, cots down, pillows, blankets, music playing, and now she was able to sleep if she wanted to. So how is the school doing that? How is the school factoring that in, and doing some kind of weaning process so that they can wean her off of it? Centers and choice time. So I'm a true early childhood person, right? Like that is my foundation. I am Early childhood is the foundation of education. Early childhood education is the foundation of education for children, because it acknowledges all those things that are developmentally appropriate for children who are from birth to 5 years old. So with that being my foundation, kindergarten, just, and that is kindergarten, considering who you're talking to, kindergarten is still early childhood education, and it should be, right? Some people consider up to 2nd grade still early childhood education, and I could appreciate that, right? But with that being my foundation, my lens to go into kindergarten is still with that lens of how are you taking into consideration her developmental stages of where she really is, mind-wise and physically. Like, how do you do that? So centers and choice time. In pre-K, there's chances for and opportunities for choosing what she'd like to gravitate towards in class. And the purpose of that is for the teacher to get to learn who she is and what things she finds interest in, and then meet her where she is in those areas to further teach her the things, the concepts and stuff that the teacher finds to be valuable. But there's something that's very something to be said for the fact that they go to the center, that the teacher walks over or is engaging with her in that center that she gravitated to. So in the pre-K classroom, that's your art area, that's your block area, that's your dramatic play area, that's your math center, that's your writing center. So there's a time that's allotted each day where the children are able to, and it's a big block of time, right? So it's about almost 2 hours where the children get to choose those areas and engage in those areas with those materials in the way, that they pretty much see fit to do so. So when I'm looking at kindergarten, I want to know, how are you still allowing who she is and what she would like to gravitate towards? How is that apparent in your classroom? Like, right? So I'm not impressed by you telling me there's a math block and a science block and a writing block, and that's what they call them, blocks of time. Like, I'm not impressed with that if that's what you're doing all day, because what you're telling me is that all you're doing is imposing your agenda on her without allowing some time for you to see who my child is. Like, what would she gravitate towards if you weren't imposing your agenda or curriculum on her? And so I need a school that acknowledges that, hey, she should not be made to just follow from 8 a.m. until 2:50 or 3 o'clock p.m. just your agenda, and that's all it is, right? That is, to me, one of the quickest ways that a child burns out, by having to follow your agenda all the time. So, except for recess, right? And that depends on the school who might not even have recess, right? I told you this was going to be a venting session because I've seen schools that they don't even have recess for one reason or another, right? So, whatever. Then, things like just even the that flow of the day, like how are you helping her to acclimate to the new setting of something like a cafeteria, right? So in pre-K, she sat in the classroom. They brought the lunch to them on a little cart, and they ate family style, and everybody learned how to help themselves and get their own food, and they sat amongst the table with their other pre-K friends. Like, I get it that you can't have that happen, and I actually wouldn't want that to happen through all of her rest of her school career. But for kindergarten, when she has to be in a lunchroom setting with, usually they don't have them with like older grades. They usually break out the lunch blocks where it's like kindergartners are paired with first graders. I want to know, how are you acclimating her to that new process? Like, who are your staff members? Are there staff members in there to help these little kindergartners with their trays of food? And what are you doing to help her to get acclimated to that process? Is an adult sitting amongst the children while they're talking? Because that's what she was used to. And like I said, I'm not even looking for that to happen throughout the entire kindergarten, but the first 2 months or so, absolutely. The first month, absolutely, I'm looking for that. Because culture shock and to an environment is a real thing, and I want to make sure that those things are being taken into consideration. Class ratio, like what is the size of the classrooms like? And the ratio of teachers to students. She was in a pre-K program where there were 18 teachers, I wish. 18 children to 2 teachers, or sometimes depending on the class she was in, when she was in her, like right now in pre-K, she's with 20 children to 3 teachers. And so, I'm not doing my math right now, but that's like, what's the math on that? 18, 6 to 1, 7 children to 1 teacher. She's about to be thrusted into some classrooms that I'm touring schools that have like 30 children to 1 teacher. Like, where is that consideration for what the regulation or the stat was when she was in kindergarten to now move into when she was in pre-K to move into kindergarten for that type of attention that she might need. So I'm going in and I'm looking at class ratios. Like, what's that attention gonna look like per child? Not just my child, I'm talking about everyone else's child sitting in there. Then, I'm looking at things like, what are the backgrounds of the teachers? And I'm not talking about cultural backgrounds, even though that is a very important part of it. But in this particular instance, I'm talking about, have they been pre-K teachers? So I have friends actually who were 5th grade teachers that then moved down to being 1st grade teachers, and some schools are set up like that where the principal wants the teachers to experience teaching the different grades. Here's my problem with that, right? And this is me knowing from firsthand from speaking to people who have gone from the upper grade to moving down to the lower grade. The experience usually is that they have a shock themselves, which is that they're like, oh my gosh, these little kids are babies. And their expectations for them are not necessarily on par with where those children are developmentally, because that's not been their field of study, right? They might have studied childhood education, which is 1st to 6th grade, or this might be their 2nd career and they weren't originally teachers. And while I'm not saying that they can't be fabulous teachers, they certainly can. But when I'm going into tours, I'm looking at who those kindergarten teachers are, and my preference is that they started with even younger than a kindergarten age range, right? So it is much easier, and I can say this is my opinion, but this is also my experience what I've experienced, that it is easier for someone who started at the foundation of early childhood to then gradually move up to kindergarten, or early childhood if you were in the classroom with 6-month-olds and 10-month-olds and things like that, and then you move up to pre-K with 3-year-olds or 2-year-olds, and then you move up to kindergarten. Those educators tend to relate better to the kindergarten children, and it's because they have been with the foundation, right? They've been with the foundational age and stage of those children. Whereas in my experience, the people who have been in 4th grade or 5th grade and they moved down, they were more so on the academic mindset, and that's what their focus was. And so when they come down, they are just bringing down, they're bringing the content knowledge, and they're thinking that they just have to adjust it to the age group that they're serving. And it's not the case, because in kindergarten, just like I said for pre-K, there's so many foundational aspects that don't get acknowledged as much when you're a 5th grade teacher or a 4th grade teacher or something, or a career changer who was teaching in high school and then you wanted something younger and stuff. So I'm asking, who are your teachers? Like, what's their background? Where they come from? How long they've been doing this? Right? Then I'm looking at what else are you bringing to the table, right? This is me talking to the principal or the school or whatever as a whole. What else are you bringing to the table besides the academics? If you know anything about multiple intelligences, theory of Howard Gardner, of there are different types of learners and different types of learning styles and different types of intelligences, where there are children who are more spatially aware, some who are more musically intelligent, some who are more, with their artistic ability. What are you, as a school, what are you bringing more than the academics? Sure, math, science, social studies, yep. I got it. That's a given. Like, you're supposed to have that stuff. But what about that learner, like my own daughter, who her current school for pre-K, they recognize that she's artistic. She's extremely artistic. So she picks up on music lyrics like that. She can draw like nobody's business. Like, she draws just she'll look at something, she'll trace it in the air with her finger and then go take it back to paper, and she'll draw it out there. So my child is showing me and showing her teachers right now that she works really well dealing with the arts, right? So when I'm going in there, I want to know, when it comes to your curriculum throughout the day, are they having opportunities to dance? Are they having opportunities to draw? Because a school that does that recognizes that there are more ways to learn than being behind the desk, right? So you bring her into a dance studio and you talk about counting rhythms and beats and things like that, and then you recognize that that's where math is going to come from with her, and it'll work out like that. Having her draw is going to help her literacy skills and her fine motor coordination, because when she's drawing and she's being that strategic about her drawing techniques, like, you don't get that's fine motor skills and fine motor development. So I need to know what you're bringing to the table more than academics. So that's a question that I'm posing. And then, yes, going back to the backgrounds of people, I am looking for diversity in the population of students. Like, my girl is a little brown girl. She's brown. I need her to be able to see other little brown children in the school with her. I need her to also be able to see children of all colors and backgrounds and religions, and because those things will play a part in the conversations that she gets to engage in. Where she's going for kindergarten is not, she won't just be there for kindergarten, right? Like that's my hopes. Trust me, if I get her into a school and I don't like it, she's out of there almost immediately. Like I've done it before with my children, and I will do it again. So, but the conversations that she's engaged in, I need them to be as diverse as our society is, because it'll help her to become more culturally aware, more culturally sensitive, more open minded to different ideas. Um, and then as she gets to do things like go to children's birthday parties and things like that, because that happens, right? You start getting invitations to this event and that event, then she'll be able to be exposed to things in those events that I can't expose her to, right? That my son, he went to, one of his best friends is Jewish, and he got to experience bar mitzvahs. He's not going to experience that in our family. Like, I mean, we could try, but it's not really gonna get it the way that it would, that he experienced it with his friend. So I need that exposure. So with all of that said, yes, I am going into these schools and I am touring, and I'm keeping a positive outlook when I walk in there. But there are certain things that when I ask certain questions and those answers come out, and I'm like, just no. Like, I've seen schools where they have the philosophy that I want, but my daughter's gonna be the only brown girl for like ever while she's in that school. No, right? I've seen schools where they walk in, and you walk in and they're talking about their math and their science and their curriculum, then you ask them about dance and they're like, well, we've been working to try to get it. And I'm like, all right, like, kudos to you for trying. Not my child, not until you get it. Like, and I'm not apologetic about it. I don't really care. Like, she's mine. And so I'm feeling a little bit frustrated. And I know it has to exist. I know it exists. I've been fortunate enough, so what I was going to say also is, not only I'm hopeful, and I know it exists because I know it exists because my sons, who are older, they're 12, almost 12 and 15 now, they did get a chance to go to a school that hit on most of my criteria. Most. They were one of maybe 3 or 4 little brown boys or brown children in the school. But the school hit on everything that I needed it to hit on. Every other thing it hit on. And so when I'm walking into those schools, though I have a long list, though it's a big criteria, I am flexible to an extent. And I think as parents, we should be flexible to an extent, because sometimes you're not going to get everything that you want. And even if you think you got everything that you want when you get your child in there, something else might happen. It's going to happen. I know that. That makes you go, what? Like, no, with the school, but let me deal with it, I'm hopeful. I am hopeful. And so my advice to all of you parents out there who are touring schools, who will be touring schools soon, is just this. Set your standards, right? You know what you want for your child. Make sure your standards are founded on something solid, right? Make sure your standards are set based off of who your child is. Your child doesn't like crowds and big, large settings, then you might not want to tour a school that has 1,000 students in it, if you could avoid that, right? You might want to look for a smaller setting, because you know that that's what works for your child. So set your standards based off of strong foundational, like, real things. Tour the school. Ask your specific questions. definitely. Oh, I'm looking at my Facebook. It just messed up. Oh well. People have to catch it on YouTube. Tour the schools. Ask your specific questions. Don't bite your tongue. Don't hold back. Ask. That's what those principals are here for. That's what I'm here for. With that being my role, when parents ask me those questions that stump me a little bit and make me go, oh shoot, maybe I need to put that in my school. These are valid things. So set your standards, right? For Facebook tuning back in because it messed up. Like my advice is set your standards, write your list, make sure your standards are founded on strong, real things, right? Who your child is, what they need, what works for them, what's comfortable for them, what your family's goals are. Tour the school, ask your specific questions, don't hold back. You know what you want. It's your kid, it's your child, and principals and people who are touring should be ready for those questions. And if they're not, you get to make a decision based off of what they're not ready for, or those answers. And then my last point with it is make your peace with the answers when you can, right? So it's not quite what I want, but for the most part it is. Make your peace with it. That might be the school for you, right? And you can make the change by coming in and being an involved parent who might help to push it to exactly what you wanted it to be for your child. So make your peace with it, or don't make your peace with it. Move on. Don't settle, right? Because your child has to be there for some odd years, and if you are not really happy with it, don't settle for it, because chances are your child won't be happy. And these early years are too precious to mess around with and have your child in a setting that you didn't like and then they're uncomfortable in as well. So that is school tours, what I'm looking for, and why I'm frustrated. But I'm also hopeful, and I should have said that at the beginning. I am hopeful because I also do believe that we end up a lot of times where we're meant to be. And so I know that my daughter, she will be where she's supposed to be. I'm confident in that. Doesn't stop the frustration, but I am confident in that. All right, that's about it. Thank you for joining me. I hope this was helpful. If you have any tips or pointers for me as I'm touring schools, if you know of some schools that I should be looking at, I am in the Bronx. I am in New York, and I'd love to, I take that as an opportunity to learn from someone if you have some information to offer me. All right. Thank you so much. I look forward to seeing you next broadcast. Take care. Have a good one. Bye-bye.